Hey guys, it's Corey from the future. Fun fact, this is actually the second time that I've uploaded this review of Demon Slayer Season 2, and that's because the YouTube gods destroyed my original video. I was using a lot of clips from the actual Demon Slayer anime series, and that was something that they did not like. But the good news is, you can check out the original unedited video on my Patreon. You get the best of both worlds. You can watch this version or the one on Patreon. Make sure to check it out. Now, back to the past. Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer.
It's good.
Let's not mince words here. Demon Slayer has become one of the most popular anime franchises of all time. And for good reason. It's got a very simple and easy to follow storyline, very relatable characters, many of which have incredibly great character design, motivations, not to mention the entire series is animated by Ufotable, whose tagline might as well be, "We make kick-ass anime." Demon Slayer began as a manga series in 2016, but really made its big splash in 2019 with its very first season, and people fucking loved this show. It was dark, it was gritty, it could be lighthearted at times, it had ridiculously awesome action scenes. It had an opening theme which took the world by storm. Hell, you'd be hard-pressed not to find my ass in a karaoke bar singing Gurenge by Lisa, doing a shitty job at it, but still singing it with a lot of pride. And the success of Demon Slayer Season 1 meant that we were most definitely going to get a Season 2, and we waited for it. And we waited. And we waited, and then suddenly we got something new, and it wasn't another season of the show, but it was actually a movie, and this confused me quite a bit. Was this going to be like the typical Dragon Ball, One Piece, Naruto films, which were going to have nothing to do with the overall story material? Oh no, the movie was actually going to be a direct continuation of the story, and this was one hell of a head-scratcher. The literal hype train could not be stopped as Demon Slayer Mugen Train was released in Japanese theaters to extreme critical acclaim. The fans loved it, critics loved it, everyone was obsessed with this movie and hopefully getting to see the continuation of its story, whether it be another movie itself or at least another season. But there were a couple of roadblocks along the way, a certain virus which will not be named, not to mention Ufotable got into a little bit of trouble with some tax scandals. However, like the demons within the series itself, they simply could not be killed. They were going to continue to fight forward and do whatever it takes to bring us our Season 2, and that's what we finally got at the tail end of 2021. Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba Season 2 was officially brought to us. And rather than just give us the next major arc of the story, they actually decided to take the Mugen Train movie and chop it up into 7 separate episodes. That is not what I'm going to talk about today. You might be disappointed to not hear me talk about Mugen Train. The fact of the matter is, I have not really much to add to the zeitgeist of this movie. It came, it went, it was super popular, and everybody fucking loved it. And for good reason. It was really good. I enjoyed the movie myself. Hell, I even own it on Blu-ray. And I have to say, as a singular arc of the series, it works really well in movie format. Most of this is owed to the fact that it is very short and very easy to digest, but the overall story itself, like the rest of the series, is pretty simple. Basically just Tanjiro going to meet the next major Hashira member, who goes by the name of Kyojuro Rengoku, and he wants to learn from him because apparently he'll give him the secrets to learning how to use this whole Hinokami Kagura, the fire style of demon slaying. Unfortunately for him, he got on the wrong train, which just so happened to be filled with demons, not to mention the next member of the Kizuki, who goes by the name of Enmu. This character was teased at the end of Season 1. He gets on the train, and through a lot of convoluted craziness, he actually ends up merging with the entire thing himself, and all of the characters have to fight their way through it in a big, giant bloodbath. The movie ends with the introduction of another member of the Kizuki, who goes by the name of Akaza, who ends up having an intense battle with Rengoku, and in a very big, shocking twist, and I guess I should probably go ahead and say spoiler warning, Rengoku actually ends up getting killed in this battle, and this was something that was incredibly shocking to me, as Rengoku seemed like the type of character who was going to stick around until the very end of the series. But this death was very important, as not only does it point Tanjiro to the next point of his mission and training, but it also lets us know that anyone can die in this series. So like I said, the first 7 episodes of Season 2 are wholly devoted to the Mugen Train arc. They chop it up into 7 different pieces, and they do manage to actually add some things that were not in the movie, but again, you could probably just watch the movie and you'll be fine. You're not going to miss out on any crucial details, but if you want to watch it, it's there for you. Really, it's the next major arc of the series that caught my attention, and the one that's really worth watching if you want to see the next part of the story. That is right, it's time to enter the Red Light District arc. That's right, the second half of Season 2 consists of 11 brand new episodes, which comprise the entirety of the Red Light District arc, and I gotta say, this shit was on fucking point. While it might be disappointing that there's only 11 new episodes of content, every single episode holds a lot of weight, is incredibly important, introduces a lot of new characters, and most importantly, just pours on the action. I might be jumping the gun here, but this definitely features some of the best action that I've seen from just about any anime, period. I mean, half of this season is essentially just one giant battle. But of course, there's a little bit more to this arc, and a lot of that actually involves a brand new character, the next member of the Hashira, the Sound Hashira, Tengen Uzui. Without a shadow of a doubt, Tengen is one of the highlights of Season 2. He has a lot to live up to, especially after the tragic death of Rengoku. In fact, throughout the course of the season, he's sort of picking up his mantle, carrying on his overall personality, and being as flashy as humanly possible. After the end of the Mugen Train arc, we get to see that Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Zenitsu return to the Demon Slayer Corps headquarters where they do some recovery as well as a little bit of training. Tanjiro also sees this as a moment to try and communicate with Rengoku's brother as well as his alcoholic father, who does not see eye to eye with him at all, especially in regards to the legacy of Rengoku. When Tanjiro meets Rengoku's father, they basically get into a giant headbutting match, and Tanjiro wants to do everything in his power to learn a little bit more about his family as they hold the secrets to apparently this Hinokami Kagura ability, which apparently was originally known as the sun breathing techniques, which is basically where all of these breathing techniques that the Demon Slayer Corps use originated from. But Rengoku's father tends to live his life in a bottle and doesn't really care about any of this, so Tanjiro again has to continue his journey to learn about the secrets of his family's past, as well as this brand new sun-breathing technique. One of my favorite things about the beginning of this arc is that, again, a lot of time passes, months go by, the characters recover, they train, they even go on a couple of missions before eventually we begin the Red Light District arc proper. This is when we get the fantastic introduction of Tengen, who's desperately trying to bring along some new allies with him on his mission to the Red Light District. This is also where we learn that Tengen is something of a ladies' man. In fact, the dude has 3 wives, all of which we'll talk about later. Tanjiro and his companions decide that they're actually going to join Tengen on his mission, which involves going to the Yoshiwara Red Light District. As the name would imply, this is going to be a dark and seedy place, which seems like the perfect home for some demons. It also happens to be where Tengen's wives had actually gone to investigate, when suddenly it seems like they have disappeared, so they decide to go in and cause all sorts of ruckus. The Yoshiwara Red Light District is going to be our setting for this entire season, and it's certainly an interesting one. It also apparently is based on a very real place, which, as the name would imply, it basically involves a lot of prostitution. This is probably why they changed the name to the Entertainment District arc, as to not cause too much controversy. This happened both in Japan and even in the West. Imagine that, parents getting upset about the fact that an animated series takes place in a world of prostitution. Decapitating monsters? A-okay. Human sex? No.
And remember, kids, TV violence is fine as long as you don't show a nipple.
One of my favorite things about Demon Slayer is that it's an amazing juggling act. One moment, it can be action-packed and super violent, and the next, it can be surprisingly lighthearted and funny. There's a lot of other anime series that can do this really well, but I still find that it's a very difficult thing to pull off, but Demon Slayer does it with gusto. I love that as soon as they actually get to the Red Light District, Tengen decides to actually dress up Tanjiro and all of his friends as women so that he can sell them to these various geisha houses where they can actually become members and infiltrate and learn a little bit more about the secrets of where these demons reside. And it's not too long before we're introduced to one of the main villains of the season, a member of the Kizuki, upper rank 6, Daki. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Daki is kind of a cunt.
What a bitch.
I gotta tell ya, this Bitchosaurus is one of the greatest villains of the entire series thus far. When she's first introduced, she's calm, she's collected, she's very regal, and as the season goes on, she slowly starts to let her guard down, becoming more psychopathic and insane, especially when you learn that she has a strong connection with another member of the Kizuki who just so happens to be her brother, someone who shares the same rank of upper 6. This is also unique in the fact that they have a strong connection to one another in a sense that if you kill one, you kinda have to kill the other at the same exact time. The only way to defeat these guys is to do a double decapitation. And while I like both of the villains in this season, Daki is the one who really does steal the show. Her brother Gyutaro doesn't really show up until the final couple of episodes, and while he has an incredibly unique and very scary design, he just doesn't have as much of a fun a personality as Daki, who is incredibly vain. She's also incredibly horrifying because of how unpredictable she is and how her personality manages to shift throughout the course of the season. She also happens to be one of the favorites of Muzan, the main villain of the series, mostly for the fact that, well, she's very beautiful. This is tied not only to her overall personality, but is also crucial to her backstory, which we get in the final episode of this season. And herein lies one of the only problems I kind of have with this season, and it's something that Demon Slayer has done before, but it's just sort of the par for the course here. They have these villains who are incredibly terrible people who go out of their way to kill people and devour them and destroy families and lives. And then at the very end, after their defeat, they always try to give us a sympathetic backstory to try and see them in a different light. And sometimes that can work. And this season, I think it just comes far too late. There are moments throughout this season where Daki quite literally destroys the entertainment district, killing multiple people in an extreme bloody massacre. She seems to have no remorse for what she's doing at all, and then suddenly after she's killed, they want us to feel bad for her. And while you can chalk this up to the fact that they've been transformed into demons and that certainly warped their human personalities a little bit, they're still the same people. But this also ties into the themes of this season, which is beauty and acceptance. We get to learn in the backstory of Daki and Gyutaro that in the past, they had some pretty big issues, especially the brother Gyutaro, who was always seen as an ugly person. People always berated him. The only reason he was able to even have something of a semblance of a childhood was thanks to his sister Daki, who was the opposite of him, incredibly beautiful. However, yet again, the series manages to be nuanced, showing us that while demons themselves are just as bad, humans can be just as evil. This causes their near demise when suddenly they are confronted by a former member of the Kizuki, another upper rank 6 member who looks all sorts of freaky deaky. This is where they become demons proper, and we get to learn of the strong connection between both of them, making them a very unique villainous pair for the series. But let's get to the brass tacks. This season right here really is all about the action. Like I said, about half of this Entertainment District arc is entirely devoted to the battle against Daki and Gyutaro. And in typical Demon Slayer fashion, the animation is on freaking point. One of the most contentious things about modern anime is the combination of traditional animation and CG animation, and there's only been a few times where I think it's worked really well. I think Demon Slayer is doing it the absolute best. The use of the art direction, the camera direction, not to mention just the friggin' environments themselves look nothing short of astounding in this season. I really noticed that they like to use CG for a lot of the atmospheric elements, such as fire and water and smoke, and it really does amplify every single action scene. This combined with the overall speed of everything, not to mention the amazing character design, colors, and just overall direction of the action itself, makes this, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best action anime series that I have seen in years. I think it totally eclipses Season 1 in pretty much every single way, and the best thing is that every character gets to do something awesome. As I said earlier, Tengen is one of the biggest highlights of the season. A lot of this is owed to his overall character design, which is flashy, and that's kind of his entire thing. He likes to be flashy. He wants people to know that he's around, and that's kind of ironic considering that his entire backstory is that he was originally from a shinobi clan, and he left them with his 3 wives, wanting to do something different with his life, not wanting to go forward with that overall plan of joining this very dark path of basically being a ninja. So instead, he decides to join find a bunch of people who slay monsters. Go fig. And while Tengen initially might come across as vain and maybe a little too arrogant, he does have a lot of love for his friends and his family, in particular his 3 wives. Makio, Suma, and Hinatsuru, the 3 wives of Tengen, who don't really get to do too much this season, but they still manage to be enduring characters. It's Hinatsuru who ends up being a little more important in the final battle against Daki and Gyutaro, but they do manage to make a few splashes and really great moments in this season. I don't know why either, but they kind of remind me of the gender-bent versions of the 3 main characters. I don't know, I just think that's kind of weird. But of course we have to talk about our 4 main characters who are awesome in this season. First, let's talk about the one that I absolutely hated in Season 1, Zenitsu. I'll go ahead and say it, Zenitsu is a lot better in this season. While he's still a whiny little bitch, he's way less of a whiny little bitch in this season, and he also manages to be really funny, especially when he's sold to a geisha house and they make him look like a girl. They say he's the ugliest girl that they have ever seen, but this actually manages to pump him up even more, and hilariously, throughout the course of the big final battle, he's asleep for most of it, which means you're gonna see a lot of badass thunder and lightning style techniques from the character. In most of the final battle, he's teaming up with Inosuke, who again still manages to be one of my favorite characters from the series, and again, hilariously enough, he manages to fit right in when he gets sold to one of these houses, because the fact of the matter is, Inosuke looks like a chick, dude. We also gotta talk about Nezuko, who unfortunately does spend a lot of time in the box in this season, but when she does come out, boy does she come the hell out. This season features, up to this point, I think the most badass Nezuko moments, especially because she eventually does break out of her box to battle against Daki, and she goes through a pretty crazy transformation, growing older, growing a big horn, and having the ability to regenerate her limbs in practically a split second. She also beats the absolute hell out of Daki, which is really fun to see. Apparently this form was kind of controversial with people because they didn't like the fact that a woman had boobs. I don't know, you people suck. There's no reason to be mad about this. She looks really badass and she's basically transforming into an adult. Get over it.
Boob! Yeah! Alright, boob!
And then, of course, there's our main character, Tanjiro, who is continuing his journey to save his sister and learn a little bit more about the sun-breathing techniques, the Hinokami Kagura. This was really instrumental in the Mugen Train arc, as after he used it for the first time in his battle against Rui, there was still a lot of mystery behind this technique, but this is where things are finally starting to open up a little bit for him. There's a number of times throughout this season where we get to see him using it to crazy effect, and it seems to be affecting that weird scar on his head, which little by little is transforming into a fire-shaped scar. This is all connected, of course, to the original practitioners of the sun-breathing technique, and there's even a really great scene where when he's battling against Daki, she suddenly is flooded with the memories of Muzan, who met a former member of this clan. So yeah, while Tanjiro might be falling into the whole Chosen One trope, I have to admit, throughout the course of this entire season, he was nothing short of badass. You really have seen a lot of growth from this character. I mean, really go back and watch the way he was at the beginning of Season 1 and see where he is now. He is a completely different character, being way more calculating in the way that he fights. His focus, his technique, his drive, it always manages to be inspiring and all sorts of badass. This combined with the overall visuals of these battles make this just icing on the freaking cake. Chef's kiss right here, bitches. Let me just be blunt here and say that this is one of the best seasons of action anime that I have ever seen. It really blew my mind in terms of its quality. There were a lot of times where it really straight up just looked like movie quality animation, making me hope that hopefully again we'll never see a movie version. That's not to say that I didn't like Mugen Train, it just felt kind of unnecessary, especially because now we have 2 completely different adaptations of them, although they're still almost identical to one another. If they can continue to have animation this good, just give it to us in seasonal format, which this seems like that's what they're actually going to be doing, as they've already announced the next seasons of the show. But aside from the incredible animation and action, one of my favorite things here are the parallels that Tanjiro has with Daki and Gyutaro, the relationship that he has with Nezuko and their brother and sister relationship. It's something that's kind of easy to see and analyze to show that basically this could have happened to Tanjiro. This could have been his future. They could have been the followers of Muzan, and luckily they have not gone down that path and lost sight of what is so important to both of them. It's a bond which can never be severed. Even when Nezuko goes through a big bombastic transformation, they still manage to hold on to the threads of their relationship. And in a nice twist, the dark parallel of Daki and Gyutaro is not too dissimilar. Gyutaro will do anything to save his sister, but the means about which he did it were completely different, and the result of that ended up transforming them into the monsters that they were originally fighting against. Demon, human, human, demon, they're really not too different from one another. And again, they're challenging that in this season, showing us that people can be terrible, people can be terrifying and do awful things, but at the end of the day, they still have a human heart. And it's that heart and that humanity which end up being the cornerstone of the entire series. You can see it in Tanjiro and Nezuko, you can see it in Daki and Gyutaro, you can most definitely see it in Tengen and his 3 wives. It's the threads that connect everything. And yet at the end of the day, Demon Slayer is deceptively simple, and its simplicity is honestly, I think, what makes it work best. Simple, relatable themes, a story arc which people can get behind and relate to, not to mention production value that will blow your damn face off. The fact of the matter is, if you're a fan of Demon Slayer, you've probably already checked out this season, but if you haven't yet and you're kind of interested, I highly recommend checking it out because it's nothing short of amazing. Also, it has the Muscle Mice. These are the best characters of the entire franchise, and I will defend them to the death. Thank you guys so much for watching this review. I really do appreciate it. If you did watch Demon Slayer Season 2, whether it be the Mugen Train arc or the Entertainment District arc, please sound off in the comments section below. I would love to hear your thoughts about it, and I'd also love to have a conversation with you about this amazing series and all of the great characters within. If you guys are liking this content, please consider subscribing for more just like this. If you did like it, make sure to hit the like button. If you're subscribed, make sure you're always hitting the bell notification icon. Of course, as you know, it'll let you know when all of my videos are released. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay down there, baby.